You're standing in a forest. Your knuckles brush the ground as you move, your body built for climbing, for swinging between branches, for a life lived mostly in the trees. This has been your world and your ancestors' world for millions of years. Then something changes. The trees start to thin. The forest that once stretched endlessly begins breaking apart into open grassland, patches of trees separated by wide stretches of grass and sky. You have no way of knowing it yet, but the ground beneath your feet is about to rewrite everything about what your body looks like, how you move, and eventually how you think. So what actually happened when apes became humans? Let's find out. Around 6 to 8 million years ago, humans and chimpanzees shared a single common ancestor, an ape-like creature that looked nothing like either of us today. We didn't evolve from chimpanzees, and chimpanzees didn't evolve from us. Instead, that single ancestral population split into two separate branches, one eventually leading to modern chimpanzees, and the other leading, after millions of years of change, to us. That split didn't happen because of a single dramatic event. It happened slowly, shaped by something as simple as a shifting climate. Millions of years ago, much of Africa was covered in dense forest. But as the climate gradually became drier, those forests began shrinking, replaced in many regions by open savanna grassland. For a species built entirely for life in the trees, that shift was a serious problem. Fewer trees meant fewer safe places to find fruit, fewer branches to move between, and far more exposure to predators in open ground. So picture it. A small population of ancient apes forced more and more often to cross open grassland between shrinking patches of forest, exposed and vulnerable every time they did. Anthropologists studying early hominin fossils describe a very specific pressure building here. In tall grass, the ability to see over the vegetation, to spot predators early, mattered enormously, and an ape that could occasionally stand upright even briefly had a clear advantage over one that couldn't. This is where one of the most important shifts in human evolution begins: bipedalism, the ability to walk consistently on two legs. That shift didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't purely graceful. Many early hominins likely moved through a long, awkward middle stage, capable of walking upright for short stretches while still retaining features suited for climbing, curved fingers, longer arms, and a body that hadn't fully committed to life on the ground. Fossil evidence for early upright movement stretches back roughly 6 million years, found in a hominin species called Sahelanthropus. Millions of years later, another species, Australopithecus, shows even clearer adaptations for upright walking, changes to the hip bones, the spine, and the position of the skull directly above the body instead of jutting forward like in modern apes. This wasn't a fast transition. It took millions of years, spread across dozens of different hominin species, most of which eventually went extinct without leaving any direct descendants. The skull changed too, gradually, alongside the rest of the body. Early hominins had a pronounced brow ridge, a sloping face, and large canine teeth suited for tearing tough plant material. Over millions of years, faces flattened, jaws shortened, and canines shrank, changes that lined up closely with shifting diets and, eventually, the use of tools to do work that teeth once had to handle alone. Now imagine what standing upright actually did, beyond simply helping with visibility. Walking on two legs freed the hands completely. For an ape whose hands had spent millions of years dedicated almost entirely to climbing and gripping branches, that freedom opened up something entirely new: the ability to carry objects, to manipulate them, to eventually shape them into tools. Early stone tools appear in the fossil record roughly 3 million years ago. Simple sharpened rocks used for cutting meat and breaking bones open for marrow. That single shift from raw plants and scavenged scraps to tools capable of processing meat efficiently mattered enormously for the next major change in this story: the brain. Access to that meat likely came through a mix of scavenging and, eventually, coordinated hunting, strategies that themselves demanded more from the brain. Tracking animals, predicting their movement, and working together as a group all placed a premium on memory, planning, and communication, exactly the kinds of mental tools that meat alone couldn't provide, but could help fuel. Cognitive scientists studying brain evolution point to a clear pattern. Meat and marrow are extremely calorie-dense compared to most plant foods, and the brain, more than almost any other organ, is expensive to run, consuming a huge share of the body's total energy even while at rest. More reliable access to calorie-rich food meant early hominins could, over enormous stretches of time, afford to grow larger, more energy-hungry brains without starving in the process. Brain size didn't grow evenly or continuously. It happened in stages, tied closely to major shifts in diet, tool use, and environment across different hominin species. Early Australopithecus had a brain roughly the size of a modern chimpanzee's. By the time Homo erectus appeared, close to 2 million years ago, brain size had grown significantly, alongside more advanced tools, and eventually, evidence of controlled fire use. Fire changed everything again. Cooking food breaks down tough fibers and proteins, making calories dramatically easier for the body to absorb. Some researchers argue that without cooked food, the human brain, which now demands an enormous constant energy supply, might never have been able to grow as large as it eventually did. So the pattern becomes clear. Upright walking freed the hands. Free hands enabled tools. Tools improved access to calorie-dense food. Better food supported bigger brains. And bigger brains over time enabled even more sophisticated tools, strategies, and eventually, language. Each change didn't happen in isolation. They fed into each other, compounding slowly across millions of years and dozens of different hominin species, most of which lived, adapted, and eventually disappeared long before modern humans existed. There's a part of this story worth sitting with. Human evolution wasn't a straight line. One species neatly transforming into the next like frames in a simple animation. At various points, multiple hominin species existed at the same time. Homo erectus, Neanderthals, Homo floresiensis, and eventually Homo sapiens, all overlapping in different regions of the world. Genetic evidence even shows that Homo sapiens interbred with Neanderthals, meaning many people alive today carry small fragments of Neanderthal DNA, a direct genetic echo of a species that no longer exists on its own. Homo sapiens, our own species, appeared in Africa roughly 300,000 years ago. Compared to the 6 to 8 million years since our split from the chimpanzee lineage, that's an extremely small final chapter in an enormously long story. There's also a quieter, more social side to this transformation. As brains grew larger and diets improved, evidence suggests early humans began living in increasingly complex social groups, cooperating on hunts, sharing food, and eventually developing symbolic behavior, early art, burial practices, and language. Language in particular may have been one of the most transformative developments of all. The ability to share detailed information, warn others of danger, pass down knowledge across generations, and coordinate complex group behavior gave later hominins an advantage that raw physical strength alone never could. Physical changes supported that shift too. The position of the voice box gradually lowered over time in the hominin lineage, and changes in the shape of the throat and mouth allowed for a far wider range of sounds than earlier ancestors could have produced, laying the physical groundwork for complex spoken language long before we can say for certain it was actually being used. None of this happened because evolution had a plan. There was no destination in mind, no inevitable march toward modern humans. Each shift, upright walking, tool use, bigger brains, cooked food, language, was simply what allowed certain populations to survive slightly better than others under the specific pressures of their environment at that exact moment in time. This is, in many ways, a story about how gradual environmental pressure reshaped an entire species over millions of years. We weren't destined to become what we are today. What we inherited was a body and brain shaped step by shrinking forests, unpredictable food, and the constant, quiet pressure to survive slightly better than the population next to us. Today, humans stand upright without a second thought, use tools without thinking twice, and rely on language so naturally that it feels automatic rather than learned. But every one of those traits represents millions of years of small, compounding changes, each one building on the last. And somewhere across the shrinking forests and expanding grasslands of ancient Africa, a small population of apes did what their descendants have always done best. They adapted. They changed. And eventually, without any single moment marking the transition, they became us.